the power of governments. Yes, I think the point that I was trying to make is that in many cases, the reality of the situation is that the governments have no power in many of these remote and fairly isolated forest regions. And I mean, Brazil may be something of an exception, but not much of an exception, and it has got a functioning and in some areas quite effective forest service, but that is not the norm throughout tropical forest regions, and so I think in the foreseeable future, at least, we will have to rely on the mobilization, in a sense, of local communities to do what the state will probably be unable to do. And the historical evidence does seem to suggest that, given the right set of rights and incentives, people who feel security over the land that they're on and have an interest, and usually an economic interest in protecting that land, they will do so. I mean, this isn't such it shouldn't be such an unusual phenomenon. I mean, it is the basis on which we in this country operate, for example. We do tend, the fact is, to protect things when we have a strong interest in doing so. So I think that's probably, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a general point. But do you want me to try and respond to some of the other points very briefly?
Not all of them,
yes, the question was raised about palm oil, and absolutely right, and it raises a wider issue of our consumption of products that cause deforestation or promote deforestation in the tropics, and it's very easy for us to, in a sense, point fingers of blame at tropical countries for failing to tackle deforestation, but we are in many ways contributing to that problem, and there is an onus on us, I think, to look to how we can reduce that indirect impact. The point also, the other point I'd like to respond to is that was made about the damage that's being done in many forests, if not outright deforestation. There is certainly a much more extensive problem of this kind of insidious process of forests being opened up, and principally by the timber industry. I'm not sure that I would agree with the point that you made, that the place to start tackling these problems is where forests are already reasonably well protected, and try and ensure that they stay that way. I would say that for the longer term perspective, we should probably stop that process of forests being opened up, unexploited forests being opened up in the future on the frontiers. There's a good example of this recently, and that Warren will probably be rather pleased to hear me mention, of how something like 20 million hectares of logging concessions in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been effectively suspended, and about 3/4 of them have been cancelled as a result, and after a certain amount of persuasion from some NGOs, under a process that was led by the World Bank. And this is the kind of thing that we can do, I think, to minimize the amount of damage that will happen in the short term, and that will lead to this long term, and almost, it seems, irreversible process of loss in the longer term.